Hey, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here, and I'm back again for another video, and I am super excited because this time we are taking a look at more hidden gems from the PlayStation 3. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Okay, so taking a look at the first game on the list, and shout out to a member of the Lightsaber Legion by the name of Darren. We talked about this at length in my last video where I mentioned Blur, and in that I said that Blur was the best racing game of the 7th generation, and that was a little bit, I think I was just caught up in the moment. I like Blur a lot, but that's a hard claim to make considering that there were so many good racing games in the 7th generation, and chief among them is the Motorstorm series, and my favorite in the series is on the PlayStation 3, that's Motorstorm Apocalypse. And in this game, I like it because it's a little bit more story-driven than the other games in the series. This takes place, of course, during the Motorstorm Festival. You are in this wrecked version of a city. It's based on the Bay Area of California, and so over the course of this 3-day festival, the game is seen through the eyes of 3 different protagonists, the rookie, the pro, and the veteran, I think, and actually playing as each of those characters also reflects the difficulty level of the tracks as well, so that's kind of cool. 40 tracks on this game that kind of that will shape and form based on what's going around the city. Again, this takes place after some catastrophic event, and even though they've got this part of the city sectioned off for the festival, the catastrophe is still happening, so courses will change due to earthquakes and helicopters crashing in the walls and crashing into the buildings and things like that. I remember there's a scene where this building collapsed and then you're racing through the collapsed building. It's a crazy game. The graphics on it are very good. I didn't notice anything like frame rate issues or screen tearing or anything like that I do notice, seem to notice from quite a few PlayStation 3 games, and we'll talk about that more later, but this is just a great racing game. I love the nitrous boost that you get in the Motorstorm games, and in this one, driving through water will keep your engines cool, whereas driving through like through fires or burning tires and things like that will actually cause your engine to heat up faster, giving you less time to use your boost. It always fills back up over time, but just using it strategically like that adds another element of, well, strategy to the racing games. All in all, this is a pretty cheap game still. I think it's still under the $15 mark, so if you see it, you should get all of the Motorstorm games, Motorstorm Pacific Rim, this one, and there's one on the PlayStation 2 and PSP called Arctic Edge, which I also have, also a fantastic game, but if you see this one, definitely pick it up. Okay, continuing on with the list, and this next game is an RPG courtesy of NIS America, and you know, I gotta shout out companies like NIS America and Falcom and Xseed and Axis and just Arc System Works, all those Japanese companies for really doing God's work and bringing these more obscure anime style RPGs and action games over to America from Japan, and this one is no different. On the PlayStation 3, it is Time and Eternity. Now, this game apparently got a lot of flack, and it wasn't well received by players, but I thought that this was a really nice and fresh take on the RPG formula. In this, it takes place, now the storyline, that can't be said for the storyline. The storyline and a lot of elements, a lot of the story elements are actually quite generic. You start off as this dude who's about to get married to this princess, and of course, marriages and RPGs, they never end well. But it starts off, you're surrounded by her and your circle of friends who make up all of the stereotypical anime tropes. But after that, I mean, things seem to be going well, but eventually you'll get to your wedding day, and of course, as you're about to kiss the bride, the wedding is stormed by ninja assassins. Now, you get stabbed through the gut shortly after the attack, and even though you do strike back immediately and kill your would-be murderer, it's at this point that your wife kind of transforms and starts kicking a bunch of butt. Like, she takes out all of the ninja assassins, and her hair is changed to different colors. She seems to have a different personality, and she's your bride, but she's different. Basically, as you go into the story, you find out that she has two souls that is occupying the same body. So you've got Toa, the kind of badass warrior that also resides alongside his bride, whose name I can't remember at this. The main draw of this game are the graphics and the animation style. The animation and art style are actually pretty fantastic. It's basically like looking back at an anime TV show from like the mid to late 90s, and the art style is really good. But unfortunately, that's a bit of a double-edged sword because the game is so stylized and so animated that when you get into the battles, which are cool themselves, are pretty cool. The battles themselves are real time. But the problem in that comes with dodging enemy attacks. So time is a big part of the theme of this game, and the combat system is no different. It takes place in a traditional turn-based RPG perspective, but the battle is real time, so you can in real time press buttons to move in closer to the enemy, to switch from range to melee attacks. You can press the button to in real time dodge enemy attacks, but because there's so much animation in the movements, you can press the button when you see the attack coming, but she will still get hit, and your players will still get hit because they're still going through the dodge animation. And so it's really hard to time things like counter attacks and dodging and even just regular attacks because of that. So another issue that I have with the game is in the game's progression system. So as you level up, you'll switch back and forth between Toki and Toa, and that's really the only way you can switch back from character to character. So far as I've played quite a few hours in this RPG already, and you'll get different points to add to their skill trees and things like that to increase their abilities. But again, you can only do that when you're playing as that character, and you can only play as that character every time you level up, whether you want to or not, which is a huge issue that I really didn't like with this game. I applaud them for trying something new, but it really just didn't work in this one. Overall, this is a fantastic game that's actually not too bad in price. Last time I saw it was around the $25 mark. I do believe it's going up though. For its technical faults, it is lacking a bit of polish, and it does have some issues with its game design and even its story, but there's enough here that I think I can definitely recommend it. It's probably one of the more unique JRPGs that I've played in recent memory. And honestly, I think that this is actually a game that would really benefit from a PlayStation 4 or 5 remaster. So if you see Time and Eternity, definitely pick it up. Okay, so the next game on our list comes courtesy of Sega. This is a spin-off of the Yakuza series, and I've talked about this one before. This is Yakuza Dead Souls. This is a cool game that takes place in the Yakuza universe, but it takes place during a zombie outbreak. You play as Akiyama primarily in this game. He is a loan shark who is on his way to do a collection run when he realizes that the zombie apocalypse has happened. And so the game starts off, you are trying to find a doctor for your secretary who seems to have become ill. So as you go through the quarantine zone, eventually you'll get out, and it kind of opens up more into a Yakuza game. When I rated this game a year or two ago, I mentioned that you didn't have a lot of the side quests and stuff and the side games and all the other bells and whistles that comes with a traditional Yakuza game, and that's actually not true. I hadn't, unfortunately, just played through it enough, but once you get out of the quarantine zone, you'll see that the government is walled off a part of the city, and then that part of the city is basically like any other Yakuza game. There are NPCs to talk to and to take missions from. There's plenty of other side activities like the karaoke and all that stuff to get into, and other ways to earn jobs, to get jobs, to earn money, to buy new weapons and items. This game diverts from the original series, and then it's less of a beat 'em up and more of a third-person shooter. You can still pick up melee weapons like baseball bats and chairs and things like that, and there's even a nice kick to push zombies away and keep them at bay, but you're not going to really see the high-flying combos and grabs and throws that you're accustomed to with the Yakuza series. He's got a series of handguns and submachine guns, shotguns, and assault rifles to deal with the undead. There are some new mechanics that come with that though, like you can partner up in some points of the game, and you can use your partner to help you do combo attacks. For instance, one of the early followers you get, the combo you guys do together is he'll throw a cluster of grenades towards the enemy, and then you'll use your snipe ability to shoot that cluster of grenades at just the right point to destroy all the enemies in that immediate vicinity. You can also use that same snipe ability to take out the gas tanks of cars and trucks, for instance, and create similar explosions. All in all, this game is actually a lot of fun. It's not as deep as some of the other Yakuza games, and it's not as focused on the story as some of the other Yakuza games, but I think this is a nice break and a nice change in tone. This one is less serious and a little more tongue-in-cheek, which I actually can appreciate. I don't believe that this got a remaster like a lot of the recent Yakuza games have gotten, so this one could creep up in price in the future if they never remaster this game and if this is the only place you can find it. But as of right now, this game goes for like 10 to 15 bucks, so if you see it, it's definitely worth adding to the collection. Next up, penultimate game on the list, and I have to talk about this real quick. There's not a whole lot I can say about this game other than it's absolutely insane and you need to pick it up from the good folks at Play Logic. It is Fairy Tail Fights, and this game is it's half cute and half ultra violent. You'll play as a bunch of characters from fairy tales, whether that's Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, Little Red Riding Hood, the Naked Emperor, things like that, Hansel and Gretel. You go through this fairy tale adventure that doesn't really follow their stories verbatim, but has elements of their stories thrown in. So as Little Red Riding Hood, you'll be taking on this group of lumberjacks who've stolen this item and you're trying to get back. And so the draw in this game is in the gameplay itself. The combat is super bloody and visceral. It's like taking a bunch of fairy tale games and then adding a combination of God of War in there. And so you'll take on groups of enemies at once. There's a ton of different weapons and items that you can use, from knives to pistols and shotguns and swords and everything else in between, and this game gets super bloody. You'll take out these groups of enemies, especially when you cut them. It'll show close-up animations of them being cut in half, and arms and heads falling off and being cut off at the legs, and pools of blood gather on the floor, and you can use those pools of blood to kind of skate around and move around a little faster. Like, it's absolutely crazy. It's super violent despite its cute aesthetic, and that contrast is what really makes this game stand out. Last I saw this game was like a $10 game, and I don't think it's got any kind of remaster. I think it's cheap only because a lot of people don't know about it. So if you see this one, definitely pick it up. I think this one is definitely going to rise in price in the future. Okay, and the final game on the list today, this is courtesy of Xseed and brought to us by Kondakawa Games. That is actually the same studio that brought us Metal Max Xeno that I reviewed recently, and this one is Killer is Dead. This is a fantastic third-person hack and slash game, and you know how much I like those. This game is equal parts Killer 7 and No More Heroes. In this, you'll play as Mondo. He is a new hire who works with this agency who's paid by the government to take on all these supernatural creatures. He has a sidekick named Mika, who is honestly the most annoying part of this game. She's kind of that typical like annoying anime whining girl, and so she's literally the worst part of this game. So getting all of that out of the way, looking past her, the gameplay itself is really good. I mean, the hack and slash, the mechanics, it's taken straight out of No More Heroes. Everything from the dodge and counter, it's very No More Heroes, which isn't a bad thing, albeit something we might have seen before, but the style of this game is taken straight from Killer 7. So even though this has the gameplay and kind of the crude humor thrown in, it's also got a really sinister tone, more like Killer 7, and it's got kind of the dark graphics, the nice animations, the stark contrast, the harsh shadows, all of that. It makes for a really stylized game, so much so that in some of the levels I actually found my eyes beginning to hurt just because there's so much going on the screen. Also, that may be because I was playing this game super late at night, but Yeah, there's a lot going on in this game, and because of that, you will see some technical hiccups here and there, like a little screen tearing, but I didn't really notice anything like frame rate issues, and certainly nothing serious like crashing. Again, this is kind of like a love letter to Suda51, kind of like a greatest hits as I've heard it described. You've got the mixture of No More Heroes and Killer 7, but also with the shooting mechanic, Mondo has a prosthetic arm that you can use to turn into a human arm to deactivate things like security systems and the like, but it will also transform into a gun that you can use to take on ranged opponents. And when you're shooting, and it feels a lot like Shadows of the Dam. I mean, it used the same like kind of perspective and everything, how it zooms in, and so it's very much Shadows of the Dam in that regard. But all in all, it takes a lot of the best parts of all of those great games and comes up with something new. So if you can find this game, it's also on the Xbox 360, and I don't think it's that expensive, but this also is a game that I will predict will rise in price in the future. So if you see Killer is Dead, grab it ASAP. Okay, guys, so I do believe that's all I got for you, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. What are some other games on the PlayStation 3 that you would consider as hidden gems, and maybe we'll talk about them next time. If you guys like this content, go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out. Peace.